Okay, so we're gonna start changing out wood. Hopefully you won't need to do this, but if you do, the wood is going to be placed back here in the corner, behind the targets, and where those bricks are, I'm also going to have wood stacked up on the back side of the trailer. So we're going to replace one chunk of wood right now. These two bars, either one of these fit through the hole in the back, which we'll see in a little bit. Those would be in the top black case behind the trailer. You'll need a screwdriver, which will also be in that top black case, and any chunk of wood. Depending on where the chunk is, I usually try to use the one with knots for the top and outsides. And if you end up having to replace a bullseye area, which if you do, it's likely going to be in that area, I try to find one of the pieces with very little knots on it. So we're going to replace that board right there. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4 in at the very top. So now we're behind the trailer. 1, 2, 3, 4 is right here. Going to unscrew these two. Then I'm going to grab my hammer, which right by all the axes, right to the left of that, there's a hammer. Put our peg in. And just tap it. Until you hear it drop. Sometimes they're stuck in there pretty good and you might have to wiggle it around a little bit or go to the other side and tap it around with a hammer. But for the most part, they drop out just like that. So back at the front, there's the piece that I just knocked out. So I am going to purposely put a loose one in just to show you what you may have to do sometimes to shim one over. You're going to have a whole bunch of shims of different sizes. And if you notice on my targets, some of them have a little bit of a gap in the wood. They don't all match up perfectly. So sometimes you have to put a shim in there and you might have to play with a couple different sizes because when you go to the back side to screw it back in, it'll want to push out if you don't have it tight. So we're gonna give that a shot and go and try to screw this one in. So at the back side again, I just started both screws and I'll just drive them back home. And there we are. That one stayed in pretty good. It's not popping out. So that's changing out a piece of wood. All right, let's go over drawing lines on the board. In this long toolbox, which will be marked, you'll have this little bag that has a screw and a washer on it. We're going to use that with this stencil in order to redraw our target lines. Now we are going to put this stencil, this screw in the stencil, and we find the center as close as we possibly can. What I do is I put it in, and before screwing it in, I kind of see where that's going to line up to make sure that I'm really close to my old lines. And especially where we're drawing, it looks like that's going to line up pretty good. So I'm going to screw it in right here. And you just leave it a little loose so that you can still turn this. First, I'll take the black marker and redraw these lines up here. I'm kind of trying to make them blend with the old line. You don't have to go all the way around, just where we changed the wood out. And sometimes if some of the other ones are wearing a little bit, I'll just, while I have it up here, clean those up too. Now you can't really see it great in this picture, but the center is, where I screw this in, the center is slightly above the bottom two squares. If you look, these squares, this is where the square ends, and this is pretty much dead in the middle, just slightly above. But when you put the stencil up there, you'll see where you need to be. After that, take that out, put it back in this bag, and put it back where it came from. Then we're going to redraw with the same stencil, line up the blue lines for the tic-tac-toe board, and clean that up. There we go. Simple as that.